Hey up and welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Outsiders. We've got a big roundup of Rugby League in the Midlands from both the amateur game and also the professional game. Karl has been out on the road. He's actually been playing, hence the black eye, in a couple of these matches. So he's got his finger on the pulse in regards to all the things that's going on in Midlands Rugby League. So really excited about this. I think we can say we've had a massive start to the amateur game in the Midlands. Is that right, Karl?
Yeah, the amateur game's gone off with an absolute bang this year, as we sort of predicted. And it's been action-packed. Lots of talking points, more talking points than a Jeremy Kyle show, to be honest with you. It's been a cracking start to the season.
Well, so we're going to do our usual set of six, and then we'll kind of do a general chat about all things Midlands Rugby League after that. And then we'll do a little bit of a look forward because there's a ton of stuff coming up. So we'll just make sure to keep people posted on that as well. Right, Karl, over to you for your set of six. Round one being the Bulldogs win against Coventry Bears and the Battle of the West Midlands.
Yeah, so it's got to be the most hype we've had to a Midlands sort of Premier season for as long as I've been playing, to be honest with you. The game that was dubbed as the Battle of West Midlands, which a few other clubs got involved and sort of started to say, well, our game's bigger than yours and all the rest of it. But it was great because it sort of built a bit of hype, didn't it? We had the Leamington guys on and there's a couple of sort of stories developing, Birmingham were charging £6 to...
We're going to look back on this, the great £6 gate charge fiasco or whatever it is. But.
Yeah, so good or bad, it made the headlines, didn't it? It was our sort of podcast, I think, made a few headlines that week, and a couple of the rugby league media outlets picked up on it, and it was a bit of a talking point. Should be charging £6 to watch sort of amateur rugby in a developing league, and a lot of people had their own opinions on it. But either way, it was a big talking point. And it was a big game. I wasn't there because, well, it was too expensive for me to go on it.
Being a lad from Bradford.
But Birmingham did come out on top of that game. It was there was a little bit of sort of spite in the background, I think, leading up to the game. Well, I think once they actually...
Well, there was a replay of last year's final, wasn't it?
Yeah. So which was the other thing, wasn't it? It was a big game. Yeah, so it was a sort of replay of last year's grand final. Everybody was sort of looking to the result to see what it was. I know from speaking to people, everybody was looking at the Twitter feeds and sort of seeing who was going to come out on top. Birmingham came out on top, 38-34, I think was the final result.
Final score,
which was a last-minute try. So I think the Bears were down by about 20 points at half-time. I think it looked like it was going to be a clear Birmingham win. Coventry really came back into it the second half and then took the lead. And then Birmingham snatched it at the last minute. So that made all the headlines.
In terms of, what we're trying to do, anything that gets people talking and keeping an eye out, on we don't want Midlands Rugby League just to go underneath the radar. Like, what was the score? I didn't really know. You know what I mean? People are paying attention. So... Fantastic.
Well, I think genuinely all the sort of clubs in the Midlands are creating a lot of noise at the minute, and like there's the Southern Conference League and the NCL as well, and I think genuinely the Midlands is making a bit more noise than a lot of the other divisions, and that's helped by the Hurricanes as well. They're sort of pushing the community game on their Twitter feeds and things like that, so that's a positive as well.
So as well as the Battle of the West Midlands, there was another game that weekend, which was Oxford against Leamington, which the final score was 20-8. Perhaps a little bit overshadowed by the other game, which had a bit of hype, but a great win for Oxford.
Yeah.
I think Oxford doing. I mean, we'll talk obviously as rounds go on.
Yeah.
But they obviously play really well at home.
They've always been a strong team. I think the problem for Oxford is always the travelling. It's the furthest out of the league out there for everybody. So in an amateur game, you're always going to get a stronger team at home, aren't you? Especially in the summer when people are going on holiday and stuff like that. But yeah, they've started strong with a win. Leamington, as we know, have got great pedigree. They've got a sort of built a great squad this year, enough to be putting 2 sides out actually. So that tells you the sort of depth they've got. For Oxford to come away with a win on week 1 is a big result for them. Yeah,
so 20 points to 8 to Oxford there. Well done. And then into round 2. So round 2 saw the first game of Telford Raiders and the first, step onto the field. You really did keep us guessing right up until that last minute, didn't you? You know what I mean? When the team sheet was released and I was like, was you like 18th man or something like that?
Yeah, so...
He was 18th man. I was like, I don't even know if he's going to get on the pitch here. But you did. And I think, did you get on in the second half?
Yeah, brief appearance.
Was you oldest on the pitch?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had a look at the team sheet after the game, and I was looking at some of the lads and thinking, I'm 20 years older than him.
Okay, no.
Yeah, genuinely 20 years older than some of the lads on team.
You could be the dad.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, too far.
Yeah, I'd like to say I held my own, but I didn't really play that well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it was what I would say about the Telford and Birmingham game was sort of Telford's first opportunity to lay their marker down. All the noise was about Birmingham and Cov in sort of round 1, and I think Telford had been quietly going about their business. Obviously, I'm involved with Telford, so I'm trying not to be too biased, but they were fairly confident going into the first game. In all honesty, after 20 minutes, the game was pretty much over. Telford came out and hit Birmingham with everything. It was his best performance I've seen from a Telford team for a lot of years. They didn't put a foot wrong for 20 minutes. They defended perfectly. They completed. The completion rate must have been 90-odd%. There wasn't a knock on. They wanted a drop ball. They turned it over. Yeah, so they really came out and hit Birmingham with everything, and it was all over by half time really.
Yeah, so final score 52 points to 10 in Telford's favour. But I think one of the key things, is a bit of an outsider really, is the size of the crowd, the attendance that you had for that day. Pitch side reports coming in at about 160 people, which for an amateur game.
Yeah, I knew there'd be some interest in it. Telford are back playing at the Hornets Rugby Union ground this year, which the whole reason that was done was to generate a bit more interest in the club again, because I think they kind of lost that. But yeah, the crowd was really, really good. We sort of had a look through some video footage, and we reckon about 160 odd people there. So for a community game,
yeah, it's brilliant.
He's mega.
So one of the things that we've spoke about on here a couple of times is the importance of having a club, not just a team. And where Telford have fallen short in the past, perhaps, we say perhaps, but we know it's a factor, is that they never really had a clubhouse or a headquarters where everyone can go and have a pint afterwards and all that. That's changed this year. How much of a difference did that make? And, did lads hang around and have a pint and what have you?
Yeah, the atmosphere after the game was brilliant, and people stayed for hours after the game. And I don't think they'll mind me saying this. The Telford Hornets, who were hosting the game, they sort of took more money over the bar in that game than they had in any of their home games for the rugby union season. I mean, the big shiny ball in the sky helps, doesn't it? When the sun's out and people want to come down and have a pint. But it was a real community atmosphere, and that was aside from the result, because obviously I'm trying not to be biased here. Yeah. That was the most successful part of the weekend. That was the bit that was most pleasing. Is that it was sort of a real community event. Everybody came together and just really enjoyed an afternoon's rugby league.
So what you're saying is that rugby league fans drink more than rugby union fans?
When the sun's out, definitely, yeah.
Well, that's why we had the forethought.
Yeah.
Forethought to move to summer rugby. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you don't want to stand in the bloody crappy rain when it's... Okay, that's round 2. There was another game. Coventry took on Oxford. Final score 38 points to 16. So Coventry beating Oxford. You predicted at the start of this year that anybody can win this league, and each game counts, because on their day, every team can come out on top, and that proves it. You've got Brum beating Coventry the week before, Oxford beating Leamington, then Telford 52-10. That's a bit of a spanking, and then you've got Coventry spanking Oxford. So big games.
It's all back and forward. So after 2 rounds, there's wins on sort of both sides, and I still stand by it. We're 3 rounds in now.
Well, it leads on to our third story, which is round 3, and Telford went to Oxford, and all right, it's a narrow loss, but Oxford won 38-32. So there's just it's just all you can't predict it.
It's generally you can't predict it, and as we've always said in this league, I think the most important thing is getting your strongest squad on the pitch each week, and you need to be consistent when you're playing at home and away. So Telford, obviously, they picked up the win at home, and then they went to Oxford the week after, and they came up short. And Oxford were brilliant that day. I'd
just like to throw something out actually to people that are watching this, involved in rugby league, wherever you're listening this from. This away travel thing is not a one-off thing. Everybody kind of struggles with that. What strategies have people come up with to aid with that? Having a stronger team when they go away, is it just something that every team needs to suck up? And I'm pretty sure people watching this will have some ideas behind that. So share them with us. And, if you've got some really good ideas, get on the podcast and let's have a conversation about it, because it's a point of weakness for every club by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think I genuinely believe you need to have, even though it's a short season, because we're in the summer, people are going on holiday. People have a lot of family commitments, don't they, during the summer? I think you really need to be pushing to have a good sort of 40-man squad at least, I think.
Yeah, just
to make a real good go of the league each year. Yeah, and I think sometimes the teams that have got the more strength in depth are the teams that are going to do well in the league.
Okay, so on to round 4. So we really love talking about the positive stories in the league and in the area and the wider game, but then it's only right therefore that we do the inverse of that and some of the negative stuff. So very rapid departure of Stuart Hood from Birmingham, one of the former guests on our podcast a couple of episodes ago, who who kind of laid out his plans for the season, and within 2 games has left the club. Now you've had a bit of a chat with Birmingham, and you've got a bit of an expose, if you like, or a few words from them.
I'll sort of read their statement out in a minute, but Mr. Hood has been involved in a number of clubs that haven't really lasted very long. There's been quite a few failed projects, shall we say. I mean, that's not being disrespectful. That is the absolute honest truth. There's a very public statement from when he was involved with Worcester Jaguars the previous year. He sort of went on to I think Rugby League World or one of the the magazines, and there's a very public statement that's been put out there, really sort of digging at the RFL, and it's the RFL's fault for this and that, and sort of Birmingham they'd really struggled for somebody to sort of drive the club forward, and they decided we're going to sort of take a chance on him and bring him in, and it appears to have backfired in a massive way, to be honest with you. Okay,
so do you want to give us a little bit of the actual words from Birmingham?
Right, so there's a chap called Dan McHugh. He's taking over the reins at Birmingham now. Sort of wants to sort of start pushing the club forward again. So the statement is as follows. I'd like to just say that the reason we're sort of reading this out is because Birmingham don't currently have access to their own website, and they no longer have access to their social media. So if anyone's sort of wondering why they've been so quiet, is because they really essentially haven't really been able to get anything out there, and they're sort of having to sort of rebuild the club and sort of start from the ground up. If you know what I mean. So this is a statement from Birmingham. Following on from last year's success, it is an incredible honour to be asked to take on the chairmanship of our remarkable rugby club. I'd like to thank the committee members, in particular Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn's the head coach of the Birmingham Bulldogs, fantastic chap, for his outstanding services given to the club over the years as coach, and incredibly pleased he is remaining on the committee to continue to support the coaching of the club and provide me with the help and guidance I need as we take on the task of leading the club into a new era. This is something uniquely special about the Bulldogs Rugby League Club. Our history speaks for itself, but it's the fans who come to support us and the people who volunteer for us that makes our club more than just a club. They make it a family. The sense of responsibility myself, Sean, and the entirety of the community feels towards our family is huge, and I'll never underestimate the importance this club has to you all. This past season has once again shown everyone the huge potential we have, and it's as important as ever to continue to have ambition, drive, and strategic foresight to keep the club moving forward, whilst maintaining the stability the club needs to continue to be the focal point of our community. Our focus must be to ensure we have a place to call our home and a successful rugby club which serves our community for generations to come. I've been part of the Bulldogs family for a number of years through trials, tribulations, and more importantly, I've stood with you all as a fan both home and away. I know what our club means to you all. Bulldogs rugby is a huge part of my life, like it is yours, and I cannot wait to get started and hopefully bring the period of solidarity and success to the club. This is just the beginning. So that's the statement from Birmingham. It's good that they've got somebody back in charge, and sort of hopefully they can sort of start going forward in the right way.
Yeah, and from us, people watching this, listening to this, you owe us nothing. But what I would say is, if something you could do for us is get behind Birmingham. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right at the start, we said we need to compete on the pitch and collaborate off the field, and this is a time where we need to collaborate and help get these lads back on and some kind of equal level keel, or whatever the saying is, or whatever, you know what I mean? So any way that you can share posts, give them a bit of encouragement, offer a bit of help or whatever, then then please
sponsorships, do. Maybe a bit of financial support, all that sort of thing is going to matter to the club at the moment. And I just hope they get back to being on a sound footing. Okay, for some reason I don't think this is going to be last. We will talk about this. Yeah, on to story 5, which is, well, you may notice that we've got our own branded tops and that now, so we've kind of stepped it up, but in more ways than one. We've actually received media passes from the RFL, which is just tremendous. There's Karl. Is that you, Karl, or is that some kind of... It looks like a criminal, doesn't it? But should have picked the photograph better, I suppose.
Karl, I mean, this isn't our little story, but it's probably worth mentioning. I mean, what will that allow us to do as a show?
Well, so we're officially accredited now by the RFL, which basically means we don't have to pay into certain rugby grounds anymore, which is always a great thing. No, it's going to allow us a lot more access to. So we're sort of media accredited level 2, so we can sort of go to Championship, League One, the Women's Super League, Wheelchair Super League, and we can essentially get media entry to all of these games. And you might even get free pie and peas at some at games as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, just what we're not saying is Karl has worked relentlessly to get these passes, and so this is just a bit of a public thanks for cracking on with that, Karl, and all the admin that you do with
and a thank you to the RFL essentially, because we have been recognised for what we're doing, and we are trying to grow the game. It's not a that is the intention of the show, isn't it? To sort of showcase the light on certain people and really bring the game forward, and it's especially outside of the traditional heartland. So it's great that they've recognised us and accredited us. When it just means we can bring even more content to the show for the next 12 months.
And you threw it around your neck, wore it proudly, and went off this weekend to the Midlands Hurricanes game, where you got amongst the crowd, you got amongst some of the players, the coaches, and had a little bit of a rundown. We've got some of them clips coming up in a minute. One of the main stories from that, we'll naturally talk about the game and kind of what's going on at the Hurricanes as well, was that Hayden Freeman became the all-time leading How'd you phrase it?
Well, I don't know if it's caps, is it? Or is it? No, it's not caps because that's international. It's the leading appearances for the Midlands Hurricanes / Coventry Bears. You know, it's gone through a rebrand on it, but it's the same club essentially.
Okay, I've got Hayden Freeman with me today. 107 appearances for the club now. Record holder. Appreciate today's probably not the result you wanted, but you've got to be proud of the record that you've set.
Yeah, I'm well happy with the record. It's just a shame today weren't really the icing on the cake. But yeah, it's been here 8 years now, so been at the club for a long time. I'm enjoying it. It's a bad day to be asking these questions, unfortunately.
I appreciate that. So started was it Coventry Bears, or was it the Midlands Hurricanes Academy? The Hurricanes Academy wasn't it originally you started at. So do you think there's a pathway there for players coming through the Midlands?
Absolutely. So we started the Hurricanes. It was RFL funded, lottery funded, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. If you look who's come through, they got Matty Davis, Jacob Jones, Josh Hodgson signing Super League this year. There's loads of lads littered throughout the Midlands who are playing up north now. So it's definitely a pathway. It's a shame that collapsed, but then Bears Juniors are now starting up. We've got a load of teams popping up around the Midlands, starting local teams, younger teams. So there's definitely players around here. There's a lot of players around here. It's just tapping into them.
Yeah, and as a Midlands lad, does it make you proud to be wearing the Hurricanes badge?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I played for these as academy as a junior, so it's massive to be playing in the shirt again.
Okay, and then just sadly we'll talk about today's game. Crusaders came out and hit with everything. They just seem to have an intensity that you guys couldn't handle in the sort of first 20 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think we were at the races today. First 20 they blew us out. They were just big packed down the middle. They rolled us. Fortunately, they rolled us for the full first half, really. But yeah, we just were off the mark today. Second half, we had a bit of a fight back. Showed a bit of determination, really, which we were lacking in the first half. I think it's ended 2 tries to 2-2, was it? It's just not good enough, really.
No, sort of second half performance was a lot better, and it seems to be a little bit of a characteristic that's formed this year with the Hurricanes. Sort of slow starts are hindering you, really, aren't they?
Yeah, massively. We talked about it last year. We were like the nearly men last year. Everyone's saying it. We were close to beating a few top teams. We started the season a couple of games where we nearly won, but then we've had some games where we've just been blown out. So I think it's an attitude thing. We've got real good, talented players here, and it's just putting them together as a team, really. Okay. We've got, like I say, we want to make playoffs this year, so it's sooner the better we knock on and start playing as a team.
Okay, so commiserations for today, but at the same time, congratulations on becoming the Hurricanes, all-time record player. Best of luck for the rest of the season, mate.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So I was really interested at the quarter of this game because there's sort of a couple of stories building up, really. So you've got the Midlands Hurricanes. We're really wanting to start making a push into that playoffs. North Wales Crusaders were winless at the time. Obviously, 2 clubs we're really keeping an eye on because both teams outside the traditional heartlands. And the sort of story, was sort of Hayden Freeman. Essentially, if he got selected for the game, which he did, became the most appearances for the club. And the sort of side story to that was the record was actually held by a chap called Chris Barrett, who played for the Hurricanes before, but he was actually playing for the Crusaders. So Hayden was taking his title off him, essentially.
Yeah.
And they were actually lined up against each other.
They were. Surely they're not the same position.
Hayden sort of wing and Chris plays sort of centres, I think.
Right,
So essentially opposite each other, which was a great little sort of story that was developing. And it was a great afternoon. The Hurricanes have they've competed okay against the sort of teams out. The league is essentially split, as we probably predicted at the start of the year. So the sort of top 6 is made up of the Yorkshire, Lancashire teams with really good pedigree. Your Doncasters, Oldhams, Dewsbury's is going really strong. And then the bottom half of the table is made up of essentially the sides outside the traditional heartlands, the ones that we're sort of really keeping an eye on. So the Hurricanes have done all right. They picked up 2 wins this season against teams outside of that Yorkshire sort of Lancashire area, and then when they've gone up to sort of play Hunslet and Dewsbury, they've really not performed. So this was an interesting one because it was 2 teams down the lower end of the table. But the Hurricanes have won 2 games, so they was looking to push up into the playoffs.
So would win a win in this game, would have that got them into the playoffs?
I think they'd have been on joint points, to be into that sort of playoff positions. Whereas the Crusaders have sort of had it sort of tough to start with. They'd not played many home games. Yeah, so that was sort of the scene that was set really for the start of the game. And I did catch up with a couple of their fans, and so we'll play that video now.
Okay, mate, with North Wales Crusaders fan Paul. Paul, how do you think your sort of season's progressing so far?
Not very well at the moment. I'm afraid we're looks as though we're treading in deep water. We need to get out of it.
Yeah. How would you compare this season to sort of last season? Do you think you're similar sort of stage, or do you think you're improving?
I think we've gone backwards from last season, but it hasn't helped that we've hardly played a home game because our home ground in Colwyn Bay has not been available because I think they've been laying a 4G pitch there.
Okay.
But all of a sudden in June we've got a real raft of home games coming up.
And it's your first. Is this your first visit to the Alexander Stadium?
It certainly is, yeah.
And what's your sort of impressions to start with?
Nice complex, but this isn't what I call a traditional rugby league ground.
No. I think next year the aim is to be in the main stadium next year.
Nice one, yeah.
What's it like, sort of supporting a club outside the traditional heartlands? Do you find it difficult? Are the crowds increasing, or?
Crowds were increasing last year, but it's hard to judge this year because I think we've had one home game all season.
Yeah.
So it's not fair to answer that question this year.
Okay.
As to being outside the Rugby League heartlands, we're actually only less than an hour away from places like Warrington and St Helens and Widnes and places like that.
Yeah.
So we're not actually that far away from the heartlands. But yeah, right. Though North Wales is traditionally association football territory. More South Wales is more rugby. That's obviously the other code union. But I think we're doing all right. We've been established quite a while now, and we've got a good, solid, loyal following. But last year we definitely weren't increasing the fan base, but
Dropped a little bit.
I don't know what's happened. Well, I can't say for this year because we haven't had any home games.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think they've got what it takes to push into the playoff positions this year, or do you think that's going to be a step too far? Because at the minute, you've got your traditional clubs, the sort of Yorkshire, Lancashire teams are taking up that top six, aren't they? And then, like yourself, the Midlands, the Scholars, they're in those sort of bottom four spots.
At the moment, I think it's a hard ask because we've left ourselves. We probably left ourselves with too much to do for the rest of the season.
Right.
But who knows? If we have a good June with all the home games, who knows?
Okay.
Could take off.
Thanks for speaking to me. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Cheers, mate. I'm here with Toby from the Midlands Hurricanes Supporters Club. The what's the name of the sports club?
Storm Chasers.
The Storm Chasers. Toby, how do you think the season's going so far?
Yeah, we've had a couple of hard matches, hard start, but 4 matches on the bounce at home should leave us in good stead for the rest of the season. Obviously, a nice comfortable win a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
London made it hard for us, but we won it. Hopefully more again the same, and then on to some tougher teams over the next couple of games.
Yeah, so they've sort of been doing well against sort of what I would say the teams outside of the traditional heartlands, and struggled slightly more against the sort of Yorkshire, Lancashire teams. Do you think this is sort of the turning point of the season where we can start pushing on?
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a bit of momentum off this season, of this match, on to Oldham next week, one of the heartlands teams. Got reasonable record against Oldham, they're pretty level with us in the table. Hopefully at home advantage, get some points off them and onto the even bigger teams after that.
And how long have you been supporting the team? How long have you been coming to watch?
I've been supporting Hurricanes since Hurricanes existed, so I was followed Bears on and off.
Yeah.
I'm from Birmingham, so they moved into Birmingham. I've been every home game last season and every home and away game this season so far.
And Hayden Freeman is on the team sheet today. That'll be his 107th appearance for the Hurricanes. He's now officially the odds of record for the most games for the Hurricanes. You've obviously seen him develop over the years. Is he one of the sort of star players for the team?
Yeah, we saw last week after a long layoff with injury, comes back with a hat-trick.
Yeah.
He is stalwart of the team. He's scored some amazing tries up the wing. So yeah, really glad to see him back. Very much deserves to get that record against one of his opponents today, I believe.
Yeah, so the chap that he's breaking the record, Chris Barrett, was on 106 appearances. He's actually lining up as his opposite number, isn't he, today?
Yeah, so a little bit of needle there, so a bit of extra excitement in the match.
Yeah. So you're looking forward to the game?
Yeah, I can't wait. Should be brilliant. We've struggled against North Wales in the past, but they've been really, really struggling this season. So hopefully, big big fat W for us at the end of the day.
Okay, thanks for your time. Cheers.
Yeah, so all positive like sounds from both sets of fans there, and really good to talk to one of the North Wales Crusaders fans.
Well, I think they were a little bit optimistic, but they weren't really too happy with how the season had started, which was sort of setting the scene for what you thought was going to be a Hurricanes win.
Yeah.
If without being biased, I think that's what a lot of the Crusaders fans expected as well as the Hurricanes fans, really.
Yeah. So half time, 30 points to 0. So that absolute kick in that first half time. You caught up with a couple of Crusaders fans in the crowd as well.
Yeah, so essentially one of the I've watched quite a bit of rugby league this year, both Super League, Championship, League One, Amateur. I've got to say, North Wales Crusaders' first half performance was as complete as any performance as I've seen this year. They came out with higher intensity. They didn't make any mistakes. They were just up for it. Their tackles were just bone crunching tackles. The defence was tight. They really took it to the Midlands. It was just Route 1 stuff. Up the middle, quick play the balls, running harder than the opposite number, and just essentially looking like they wanted it a bit more. They didn't want to go away from that ground with a loss, and essentially at half-time the game was already over. So I caught up with a couple of the Hurricanes fans.
All right, I'm with a couple of Crusaders fans. Couldn't have gone any better, could it, for your first half?
It's probably the best we've played all year, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought we all came here a bit nervous, and we were thinking the win has to come today. And I think we've played fluently, we've played some skills. We scored tries out wide, close range. It's the best we've played this year.
And I think looking at the big difference between the two sides is just the intensity that they brought from the start of the game. Really, do you agree with that?
Yeah, we haven't seen this sort of intensity. You're spot on, buddy. But I would like to add what Conrad just said now. Defensively, we've conceded 3 penalties inside our own 10 and defended them magnificently. That, to me, is as pleasing as the tries we've scored.
Perfect. And I noticed you got a motor neuron disease T-shirt on. Was you involved with it in the cycle today?
That's him. That's me that
That was you.
Yeah.
I did want to catch up with you. So just explain a little bit for anyone that's listening what you're raising money from, what you've done today.
Right. I've been riding to 2 or 3 fixtures. I've been to the Challenge Cup at Thatcher Heath.
Yeah.
Last week I was at Rochdale. Cycled to Rochdale. Today I've cycled to Midlands Hurricanes, and next week I'm cycling down to Cornwall to raise money for Motor Neuron Disease Association. If anybody's seen what's happened to Rob Burrow and the way that Kev supported him, that's who's influenced me.
And where can people donate if they want to make a donation to your page?
If you look up hashtag crew CRU for MNDA, you'll find me.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Cheers for the interview, guys.
I'm loving these little clips, Karl. We've got to keep these going, between different games and, catching up with different people. So if you do see myself or Karl out and about at different games, stop us and have a few words with us. I'm actually going on the road to the Magic Weekend. I'll be up there. Are you going to get to Summer Bash, you think, Karl? Or we'll see?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, so, let's have a little chat about it, get you on the podcast.
I'll just say the Crusaders fans, the guys that I met were absolutely brilliant. They were sort of, they're not a huge following, but
they'd had a drink, hadn't they?
They'd had a drink. They were they were loud. They were singing. They were chanting. They really brought the atmosphere to the Alexander. So it was great for them to see their team playing so well. I mean, it was a really fantastic performance.
Yeah. Final full-time score, 42 points to 14. Like you said before you started this, the Hurricanes fundamentally won that second half.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. They got such a stiffing really in the first half. MNDA, massive going on. Just had the Leeds Marathon. I know Graham, one of our previous guests, who seems to get a mention every freaking episode.
He does, doesn't he? Keep sharing, Graham.
Yeah, he's just done the Leeds Marathon with his fiancée in aid of MNDA and the Rob Burrow and all that kind of stuff that's going on. And then you got to meet this other chap then at
the cycling rugby fan. So he's as you've seen on the last clip, he's been cycling to different rugby grounds from the Crusaders, and he's been raising money for MNDA. And we'll put his link in the bottom of this YouTube video for people to donate. And again, it's just it's something the rugby league community's really just sort of got involved with, haven't they?
Yeah.
And it sort of makes you quite proud to be part of a rugby league family, because we are a smaller sport than most, but I think in times of crisis like this, everyone comes together and no more than so they have with supporting motor neuron disease.
Yeah, well, it's not just this. I mean, we saw it when Danny Jones passed away.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. All of a sudden, his wife, singer, was all over everything. You know, the community obviously got behind her, the family, and kept her involved with the game and what was going on. And you know, that then led on to all this, you know, all the stuff with Rob Birr and Kev Sinfield and all that. By the way, Kev Sinfield's book's just been released. That should be
all right.
I should be getting my signed copy any day. So looking forward to that.
Oh, we'll have to get him on for an interview sometime.
Right. Anything else to say on the Midlands game?
Not on the actual performance of the match. I think it was.
We have got something to say. Obviously, come the end of the match, there was a departure from the head coaching position.
Well, yeah, I was going to get onto that, but yeah, so 2 nights after, it dropped on Twitter that Rich had been sort of relieved of his duties. The Hurricanes had parted company with him. Did I see it coming? I don't know. It just, I know the club's really got big ambitions this year. I know they've built a strong squad. They certainly should have been doing better than I think they're expecting they should have been doing. And it's really just shows the ambition for the club this year, and it's not really been going as they want it to. I've personally sort of got to know Rich. I think he's a fantastic guy, and I know he leaves the club with their best wishes. And from a sort of personal point of view, I really hope Rich continues coaching and stays around rugby league, which I'm sure he will. But yeah, that was the big news that dropped the other night. So everyone's sort of waiting to see who the next coach is going to be. Sort of a bit of guessing going on.
Any names?
No, I don't know. And if I did, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I don't. Like you say, all I'll say is, the conversations we've had with Rich, I really, really respect him, really like him. When we had a conversation with him, it was just rip-roaring, laugh after laugh. It's sad, but it's professional sport and we understand it.
Unfortunately, yeah, it's a results-based business, isn't it? And they haven't really been getting the sort of results that they've been wanting.
Okay, moving on. Yeah, so on to number 6 from our set of 6, and that's a great story for another former guest of ours, Lewis Collins, who kind of cut his teeth, didn't he, in the professional game. You bumped into him at the weekend. Just fill us in on this story, Karl.
Yeah, so we'll drop the clip in now so people can see it. Here it is.
Okay, I've got Lewis Collins with me, who was part of our podcast. I think it was episode 3. He was part of our podcast.
Yeah, early days.
He was sort of had aspirations to start moving up in the rugby league refereeing world, and I've turned up at the Hurricanes today, and you're the third official.
Yeah, I'm the reserve referee. It's my second outing in League One. I think Karl, I said on the podcast, I'll give it a year or 2 and we'll see about stepping up to the pro game. But yeah, here we are. So really enjoying it. It's good atmosphere, good standard of rugby. It's really good to be part of a experienced team of officials. More than anything, you learn a lot off these guys. Yeah. So I was refereeing yesterday in the Northwest Men's League, so sort of man in the middle of that. And then reserve referee today, so it gives me a real good mix of still being able to referee and try and sort of hone my refereeing, and then like here on a Sunday I can learn off some more experienced guys. So
perfect. I mean, generally the Midlands at the minute, it seems to be a sort of thriving division. Do you get that impression?
Oh, absolutely. I was refereeing the Telford Raiders last week. There's well over 150 spectators watching that. Real buzz, real atmosphere. I think the standard of rugby's improving. So that as I said on the podcast, 3 years I've been doing this, and there's definitely been an improvement in the level. And hopefully that comes with more fans coming. There's more teams popped up. There's women's rugby going. So it's going from strength to strength, and I can see that when I'm out on the Saturday and Sunday.
Perfect. Wish you all the best then for the rest of the season.
Cool.
Cheers, Matt.
Carl.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, that was Lewis sort of talking to me at the Hurricanes game, and as I say,
He's looking fit, isn't he?
well, yeah,
I thought he was looking really trim.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he's clearly like, you know, getting stuck into the season. And
I think we've given him a bit of a profile. So
we have.
I joked that with him because he was refereeing our game the other week actually. Oh, maybe we have. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you know, we had him on the sofa, didn't we? As he says in the interview, he was looking to eventually progress into sort of the professional ranks, and a few months later, he's already there. He's done 2 games now at the professional game as the third official. So he's in charge of the substitutions and things like that. And, you know, as I said on the interview, it helps him being in amongst that environment of sort of referees at a bit of a higher standard. So he's learning from them all the time. It's just a really great story, and, you know, something we're quite proud of, really.
Yeah, what's he got coming? Did he mention like what games he's got coming up? Or has he not really worked like that? He's not really got a long cast.
I don't know if it really works like that, but certainly, and he sort of went up to the sort of he refereed a game in Yorkshire.
What was your feeling, Karl? Was he nervous?
A little bit.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
It's
a big step up, isn't it? You know, amateur game. You know.
Yeah.
All right. You know, you could get fucking punched in the face, I suppose. But into the professional game, I mean, it counts. You know what I mean? There's money involved. There's status involved.
Certainly. I mean, he wasn't the head official. He was sort of in charge of the substitutions and sort of that sort of thing. And I think it's timekeeping in it, essentially. But yeah, I mean, he was there, and at any minute, you know, if referee goes down injured or something, he's on. So he's in amongst that mix now, and it's great to see. It's also great to see that, you know, got somebody who's refereeing in the community game, and then you sort of see him in the sort of professional, semi-professional game as well. Yeah, so it's another story that we'll sort of keep an eye on. I think.
Yeah, definitely. So that brings our set of 6 to a close. So we just said that we would have like a little bit of a general discussion about you know what's coming up in the game, you know what we can expect on the podcast, and before we wrap it up.
So I think before I sort of go on anything like that, I think it's worth mentioning it's a big sort of story that's bubbling up at the minute. Is Josh Hodson. It looks like he's going to be getting a Super League contract.
But you called that as well.
Yeah, so the sort of story's knocking around at the minute. There's a number of clubs interested in him, and this is a bit that sort of got me. I know that there's a Super League club has watched our podcast with him to get a bit of a character reference.
Really?
Yeah, to sort of get a bit of an understanding what he's about.
Well, if it's played a small part in someone being able to, well, you know, Lewis Carroll and Lewis Collins. Who the fuck's Lewis Carroll? There's an author in it. Lewis Collins, Josh Hodson. You know what I mean? If it elevates, if it plays a small part,
tiny part, yeah.
This is worth it. Like,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely. So he's. We don't know where he's going to end up, but it really sounds like he's going to end up at a Super League team next year. And one thing will be another story will continue to follow. And if he is watching, hopefully we get the first interview. If that's what we'll be rocking up with these passes. So I'm interested to see where he's going to end up. Yeah. Hayden Freeman, actually, when I sort of spoke to him after the game. He actually mentioned him. You know, they're all sort of part of this Hurricanes development project that happened years ago that was sort of lottery funded. It's really good to see him out there absolutely ripping it up, and it's just another Midlands lad that's doing so well. Really,
there's some talent in the Midlands. We know that. We know there's talent around here, so that's good. That's good. Okay, so general kind of look forward in the game. Some huge things coming up. Obviously, we mentioned this weekend coming. It's the Summer Bash. Blackpool, is it again?
No, it's at York this year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's up to York. There's also a Women's Super League fixture taking place this year, which is really interesting, something we want to keep our eye on. Something else we haven't mentioned. I'm sort of going off track a little bit here.
What you are doing is turning this set of 6 into a set of 8.
Yeah,
as per usual.
Well, sometimes the one thing we haven't mentioned, the Women's Super League Midlands is due to launch in the next couple of weeks. So that's coming as well, and I think that's a really clever branding by the RFL. So they could have just called it the Women's Midlands League or whatever, but no, they haven't. They've gone, this is now the Women's Super League Midlands, and that's really given it sort of a big sort of platform. And I already know that the teams that are looking to be in that division are developing some strong squads. It's not going to be scratch teams. There's going to be strong teams in there. And I'll just sort of put a shout out to any of these women that are sort of playing in this league. We want to get them on this stuff, don't we? And definitely interview them before the start of the season. Yeah.
Or, an invite down to a training session or whatever. It'd be great to cover some of that. That's the Summer Bash. Also, we've got the week after that, we've got the Magic Weekend, which I'll be up there. On a stag do with the aforementioned, always gets a fucking mention, Graham.
On a stag do, does that mean you're going to have your mic with you or what?
I'm definitely going to take my media pass.
Yeah,
I'll take that and see where I can scratch around and see who I can get to chat to. I don't know. I think we should. I think I should, you know what I mean, and just kind of see what happens. See who I bump into in the crowd and
absolutely.
So if anyone's up there and you see some freaking pissed up Yorkshire bloke walking around with a microphone
and a pink cow on his chest,
and I don't mean Jamie Jones Buchanan, then give us a shout. Well, just one story that we across the board, numbers at training seems to be up across the board. Youth training is just at Telford. I know it was too much to handle, isn't it? Now.
Yeah. The first training session, there were like 75 kids turned up, and Fred,
and his own.
I think he does have somebody else with him, but the numbers were massive, and it were exactly the same at Coventry at the XL Leisure Centre the other week. I think they had nearly 100 kids turn up for their sort of first junior session. So that's amazing. They're the stars of the future, aren't they? And it's like I say, it's just, I think there's a real big spotlight on Midlands Rugby League at the minute. So it seems to be filtering right down into the juniors, the women's teams, and it's all positive, like we predicted, and nobody believed us, but it's happening.
It is happening. Sometimes, it's like the old. What do they call it? Fake it till you make it. We're like, this is a big thing. This is a big thing, and it's becoming. Well, I think it's become a big thing.
Yeah. Couple of the games to look forward to in the next couple of weeks. So there's be Telford v Leamington.
Yeah, that's going to be
rivals round, as my mate Pete calls it now. What did he call it? The Grub Cup.
The Grub Cup. Yeah.
If I'm not banned.
Oh yeah, because
we haven't even mentioned that, but
no, but do you know what? I'm not sure we should, because it's a bit like a smear campaign on yourself.
Yeah.
For months we've been talking about I'll test first 10 minutes. I'll test the referee. Turns out the fucking referee's been watching. Fill us in, Carl. What happened at the weekend?
Yeah, I didn't have a good afternoon. I think
as well as getting a black eye, what else did you pick up?
Well, I managed. I don't know how I quite managed it, but I managed to get 2 yellow cards and a red all in the same fucking game.
But was the red as a result of the 2 yellows?
No. I'm sort of laughing about it, but I was I was pretty distraught and pretty messed up my weekend.
Seriously, did you lose your head? What
I didn't actually lose my head. That was I could understand it if I lost my head and I just went absolutely mental. And I got done for an eye tackle. I came across the field and sort of went up over the top of him. But any sort of head tackle these days, it's like once upon a time, probably no one had batted an eyelid at it, but it was like straight in sin bin. Oh bloody hell! And then I got done for language, even though it was aimed at my own player. So and then the red was it was a red. It was a red.
not even contesting.
Do you know when I think I was annoyed about how my team was playing, And you know, when you want to, you need a bit of a momentum changer sometimes, don't you? And you shoot out a line and you just want to hit somebody with everything you've got, and you want to turn the ball over because, I mean, essentially it would diamond, you know.
Sometimes it takes some.
There wasn't long left in the game, and we needed that ball back. We were going uphill. The game was getting away from us. I went out there to just get this momentum changer and got it wrong big time. I went out to just, you know, put a really big hit in. Unfortunately, one of our lads dropped the lad around the legs as I went straight forward to him, and you know, it hit him a bit high, and yeah, I was.
30, is he all right?
30 seconds.
Is the lad all right?
Oh yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was all right. And 30 seconds after I come back on pitch, I was back on the sideline. So yeah, Phil, I do apologise.
What did he say to you afterwards?
Well, he didn't look at me. I had to walk off and just stand there while.
Whilst we're talking about, you know, have we got plans to get Phil on the podcast? What are the guests we got lined up?
Yeah, so I'm sort of speaking to Becky. Well, right. So Becky Davis and Darren Mawson, who are both involved with Wales Rugby League, they're going to be on the show in the next couple of weeks. The Staffordshire Quantums, got to get them on. They're really making some noises.
Yeah, they're doing fucking great.
Yeah, so it's worth mentioning them actually. They're sort of a new team in the Midlands playing in the Merit League, but they're getting like 25 players every week. You know, there's really good numbers there. We went down there and played them in a pre-season game, and for a team that's just started, the crowd was massive. Honestly, there was loads of people turned out to watch them. They're really sort of making a bit of a profile for themselves. They turned up at the Hurricanes game. They were the noisiest fans I think they've had all year. And they've really...
Oh, what did they do? Hospitality Day, did they?
I don't know if they did that or
they
just turned up to watch a game. And so I think that the Quantums lads are all sort of essentially rugby union players, but they've really bought into the rugby league sort of summer culture.
Yeah.
And they were at the Hurricanes game again at the weekend, so you know they've really bought into it. So I spoke to them. I've definitely got to get them on. I've got to get Phil on, and he can talk us through my disciplinary record or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, and the sort of invitation is, you know, we have got people lined up, but I think we're going to have to start being a little bit selective who we get on, unfortunately, because we can't get everybody on.
Yeah.
Still got the James Simpson episode to drop in the next
couple of days,
next week or so. So yeah, it's sort of exciting stuff, really.
Brilliant. Okay, Karl, any afterburners before I wrap this episode up? It's been great, and just catching up after the start of the season. Been a really busy period, and then lots going on. So it's been great to chat about that.
And I'm just interested to just carry on seeing how the season's going to develop, really, because like I said to you at the start of this episode, it's been the biggest sort of opening
start to a Midlands season,
to a Midlands season, and beyond. You know, we're keeping an eye on other clubs as well. It's just really exciting, and like I said, the Women's Super League Midlands to kick off soon as well. Can't wait to keep an eye on that. There's just stories developing all over the place, and more stories than I thought we would get. If I'm being honest with you, so yeah, I'm just interested to keep seeing where these stories lead us and see what happens for the rest of the year.
Great. Well, it's been great chatting again. Thanks to everyone that's watching. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, comment, whatever. It all helps to get this information out to people that want to hear it, and fans just like you. They've got an interest in Midlands Rugby League. Help grow the show. So from me, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.
And yeah, thank you for me as well. Just watching and subscribe. That's what you got to say when you're a YouTuber, aren't you? And subscribe.
If you subscribe, yeah. And if anyone is interested in a Rugby League Outsiders bit of merchandise, we have
coming soon.
Yeah. We've got stuff coming soon. I think it's a great little logo. So we'll keep you posted. If you're interested, send us a message. We'll stick it on the waiting list, and we'll let you know. Okay, till the next episode. Take care. That's the final whistle for this week's episode of the Rugby League Outsiders. We hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow us on social media and share this podcast with your friends. And as always, if you have a story to tell, a club to plug, or a player that deserves recognition, we want to hear from you. So until next time on the Rugby League Outsiders, take care.